Hello everyone, back again with me, Yenny. Now I would like to explain about the first chapter of Ellen Cunningsworth, Choosing Your Coursebook, Selecting Coursebook. Actually, this is the result of my discussion with my friend Maulidia, yet since I forgot to record the presentation with her, so now I will present it myself. Well, this is what we are going to discuss right now, the approaches to evaluation, deciding on a checklist, selecting the best available coursebook, and the role of coursebook. As we know, there are so many published materials for English language teaching or ELT available on the market. Furthermore, the number of books published in more and more areas of ELT also continues to increase over the time, and this definitely makes selecting the right coursebook a challenging task, as this can make us easily confused and overwhelmed by their sheer variety and by the competing claims made for them. So, how do we make our choices in selecting the right coursebook for the learners? Should we choose the book with the most attractive illustration, or the books that are strongly made and durable, or even books with the best price? Those are just few factors that we need to consider, yet not necessarily the most important. Whereas in most decision making, the key lies in asking the right question regarding the coursebook first, and then evaluating the answers which result from this process. In selecting the coursebook, we need to do an evaluation process. Therefore, it is quite necessary to know first some approaches related to coursebook evaluation. According to Cunningsworth in his book entitled Choosing Your Coursebook, he classified approaches to coursebook evaluation into two kinds. The first is impressionistic overview and then in-depth evaluation. The first is impressionistic overview. In this process, we can examine the various features of the coursebook, such as the quality of visual, how attractive and clear the layout is, what the whole course package is made up of, how the items included in the coursebook are sequenced, and so on. This kind of impressionistic overview is useful and gives us a general introduction to the material. However, it is insufficient to give enough detail to ensure a good match between the coursebook content and the requirement of the learning or teaching situation. And then the second is in-depth evaluation. In this process, we examine how specific items of the coursebook are dealt with, particularly those which relate to students' learning needs, syllabus requirement, how different aspects of language are dealt with, etc. In-depth approach actively seeks out information about the materials in line with an agenda that we have already decided on. Whereas the impressionistic approaches is more receptive in that we look for anything that is noteworthy and interesting. After all, it is better to combine both approaches involving an impressionistic overview of the whole and in-depth examination of representative sample of the material in order to form a basis for evaluation for the ensuring choice of the most suitable coursebook for adoption. And then another thing we need to prepare for evaluation and selection of the coursebook is a checklist. According to Cunningsworth, A textbook evaluator should identify her or his priorities and make their own checklist by using some criteria mentioned and adding other based on personal priorities, as different criteria will apply in different circumstances. In order to give you an idea or illustration about the criteria that can be considered, Cunningsworth in his book provides example of some of the most important general criteria for evaluation and selection purposes that are presented as a basic quick references checklist. The criteria involve aims and approaches, design and organizations, language content, skills, topic, methodology, teachers' books, as well as practical considerations such as cost and obtainability. Well, after we understand several kinds of coursebook evaluation approaches and how to decide a checklist, now we move on the main step, which is selecting the best available coursebook. First of all, we have to remember that selecting coursebook involves matching the materials against the context in which it is going to be used. No coursebook designed for a general market will be absolutely ideal for the particular groups of learners, but the aim is to find the best possible fit, together with the potential of adapting or supplementing parts of the materials where it is inadequate or unsuitable. According to Cunningsworth, there is a good way to approach the the selection of the coursebook, which consists of several stages that are, the first one is to identify the aims and objectives of the teaching programs. Second is by analyzing the learning or teaching situation. Then draw up a list of potential coursebook using information from publishers, advice from colleges, and your own previous experience. This book should be subjected to an impressionistic evaluation to eliminate those that are obviously unsuitable. The resulting shortlist should consist of perhaps between 3 and 5 coursebooks. And this will be subject and this will be the subject of an in-depth evaluation process using criteria that are most relevant to the needs of the teachers and learners concerned. It is essential to prioritize the criteria that we are going to use, using those which are most relevant to the context in which the materials will be used. And then finally, in most circumstances, the coursebook which most closely fits the requirement and the context will be best available, although other factors such as flexibility and the potential for adaptation will need to be taken into account. In addition, after the coursebook selection has been carried out, we can further do a post-use evaluation, which is the process of examining the coursebook's performance. It is used to identify the strengths and weaknesses which emerge over a period of ongoing use. This kind also used to help in deciding whether to use the same coursebook on future occasions. After we know the way of how to select a suitable coursebook, it is important for us to know the significance of the coursebook. The reason why we need a coursebook is that the coursebook plays an essential role in the teaching learning process. What are the roles of coursebook, especially in the ELT area? According to Cunningsworth, the coursebook has multiple roles in ELT and can serve as a resource for presentation materials, spoken and written, a source of activities for learner practice and communicative interaction, a reference source for learner on grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and etc. A source of stimulation and ideas for classroom language activities, a syllabus where they reflect learning objectives that have already been determined, a resource for self-directed learning or self-assessed work, and then the last is a support for less experienced teachers who have yet to gain confidence. It is generally accepted that the role of the coursebook is to be at the service of teachers and learners, but not to be their masters. However, it has to be recognized that teaching materials can have considerable influence over what teachers teach and how they do it. Consequently, it is crucial to make a careful selection and make sure that the materials selected closely reflect the aims, method, and values of the teaching programs. Finally, the relationship between teachers and coursebook is an important consideration and is at its best when it is a partnership that shares common goals to which each side brings its special contribution. Therefore, the aim of the coursebook should correspond as closely as possible to the aims of the teachers, and both should seek out to meet the needs of the learners to the highest degrees. Well, this is the reference that we use to analyze the coursebook. Okay, thank you so much for your willingness to listen to my presentation. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.